are they see. Every time I turn around, now you are they feel. Jesus, you said I be a picking, no. Jesus, you said your love go cover me. Every time I look around, now you are they see. Every time I look around, now you are they feel.
Thank you very much, Reverend Sama, for joining me in the studios this early. It is always wonderful to know that you are there. Greetings to the people of Ambazonia and welcome to today, Tuesday, the 16th of August, 2022. And we are in for our Amba history. And I want to remind you that today, Tuesday, we'll be having a very, very special session with our Honorable Barrister. Let me give some appellations that are uncalled for. Anyway, with our Barrister Timothy, who will be coming to the studios to continue to brief us on what we need to do and what we have to do. 21 gun salutes to all the people of Ambazonia who have stood firm and have decided to resist everything about La Republique from beginning to the end. And I want to congratulate and thank the Ambazonian women. No, let me say Ambazonian woman. The Ambazonian woman who has stood up and has said, never again. Ambazonian woman, I doff my cap for you. And I tell you, we are making it. When women come into a stuff like this, it means it is serious. Most of the Ambazonian women know the pain they had before bringing the children, that some of them have been killed without any announcement by La République du Cameroon. And I know that they are very vexed. And because they are vexed about that, I want to join you all, the Ambazonian women, to make sure that we continue with what God wants us to do, especially to get back our land. And because God wants us to get back our land, we have stood with you and we are standing with you to make sure that this land is gotten back. And of course, with your input, the land will be gotten back. I want to announce here to the other Ambazonian women who have not yet joined the Ambazonian woman to bring your own contribution, that it is not too late. I told you we'll be changing momentum in our Amba history. To go back to the old history that we have heard and heard and heard, we have determined to come into the present history, which is current events that are turning out into history. And so last week, Thursday, we had the Ambazonian woman came to a meeting and they did some discussions. Now, Mr. Historian, are you a woman? No, but I applaud the Ambazonian woman and I am a fan of the Ambazonian woman. But we have never seen and the Ambazonian woman come into talk about our history. Just hold on. Very soon, they will flood the airwaves of Ambazonia, and you will know that we are not a joke. But before we go, remember we have another Ambazonian woman who says we should always remember. And so I want to treat you to her remembrance song so that we get ready to receive what Barrister is coming to tell us. But before we get to her, I want to inform you that this evening, the Secretary of State for Communication, for the interim government, Dr. Martin Mungwa, will be coming up to address the Ambazonian people today. And before he comes, as our history goes, we have to warn you, Ambazonian restoration fighters, open your eyes, open your ears. Don't be afraid, but take cover and behave guerrilla. We are in a guerrilla fight against the Republic. Don't expose yourself. Stop going to drinking sprees. Stop your celebrations. A time for celebration is coming. Now, the old trick that Ahijo played before most of you were born has resurfaced today. La Republique has pretentiously dismissed hundreds of gendarmerie officers, mostly from the Ambazonian origin, and they have indoctrinated them to come and deceive you that they have been dismissed. No, they are spies. They are enablers. Watch out. Don't give yourself to any of them. That was the game Ahijo played and got many of us killed. That is why Ambazonia has a smaller population, because they were killing most of our reproductive men with using this trick. So La Republique is coming late. We have known the tricks, and we must tell you about the tricks. So if somebody comes to you or come to your LGA and tells you that he was this and that and that and that, open your eyes. Watch out. That may be an enabler. All right, let's go. Sister, you say you want to sing that when I remember. Okay, come in now. Come in. I allow you. Just a few minutes, please. Go.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, Sister Josephine, when I told you to come in and just sing for a little while, you are singing much. Anyway, um, Sister Emanuela, thank you very much. And thank you for always getting ready to come in and remind us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Fellow Amazonians, it's time for our history. And I have the pleasure of announcing to you that our historian, though a barrister, is in the house. Yeah, barrister should be somebody who has studied history. But they deceived a lot of young barristers today who don't even know about our history because they deceived them. And they were telling them European history, American history, but they forgot to talk about their history within their peripherals. Just like they told us that Mungo Park discovered what? So the people were living around River Niger, did not know River Niger until Mungo Park came and discovered it. And we carry a concept and we are running with it. Anyway, Ambazonia is a land that there was a scramble in the 1884. And in the 1916s, something happened. Then finally, in 1961, the biggest of histories took place. And we have come down the route. We have plowed that route from 1961, where we want to start. That's where we just cut our history, till date, which is about 61 years. We are in the 61st year of that history that took a turn on us. And we are wondering that we are the 40th largest country in Africa, and around the world we have 65 countries that are smaller, about 65 countries that are smaller than Ambazonia, both in size and in population, and they call them countries. But what befell us that we are in this square mile today? As history goes, the people that suffer most are the ones that have the best, and everybody is scrambling for it. Fellow Ambazonians, I have with me here in the studios Barrister Timothy, who is very conversant of what is going on now, as he was, or as he grew up to listen verbally and also to make research to know what is actually happening in Ambazonia and where we are today in our history. Though it's current events that are turning into history, but I'll just hand over the microphone to him and I'll tell him, ride on. And as he's riding on, remember, we have the phone number on the board. If you have any question or anything, please interrupt him and ask your question. He will be able to reconnect where he has stopped, and then we can push on till we end this program for today. Remember, our history is how to educate you so that you can know what you are fighting for and what you stand for. Because you should not just be fighting as somebody beating the air, or you just grow up and hear people shouting and just start shouting and throwing dogs in the air without understanding what is going on. We are not fools. Ambazonians are reasonable people, and they have the brain to understand things, and we should have knowledge before we carry out whatever we want to carry out. So for introduction, welcome into the studios of ABC, Mr. Barrister.
Thank you once more for inviting me. I promised to be here even if I was dead. I'm not dead, I'm here, maybe to make further clarifications and answer questions if necessary. Thank you again for inviting me. I hope the audience, the followers will get something, they will learn something. See, we may not be learning something to fix the past, but we know the past to fix the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again for that brief greetings to the people of Ambazonia. Yes, we are seated here because there is a situation at stake concerning our land and our people. And a man who is conversant with some of the things that have been happening and are happening would just like you to tell the Ambazonian people why we are in this battle, the reason we are standing up, defending ourselves, because we did not take up arms. No, we stood up to defend ourselves. Why this battle? If people were as sincere as we, the Ambazonians, count ourselves, some Ambazonians count ourselves about sincerity and giving to whom a thing belongs, which is his. Over to you.
Thank you, Pastor. And once more here, you remember last time I made the point that Ambazonia is a product of the international community, the League of Nations, and then the United Nations. We are here today fighting, knocking at the United Nations, and they're not opening, at least not as fast as we would love them to be. But let me go back a bit to clarify why. It's an asset that were a product of United Nations from the League of Nations 1919 through 1961 under the United Nations. And something was going wrong. When they created the League of Nations and created the two mandated territories of Cameroon, one under France, the other one under the UK, the intention was quite good by the international community. But an intention of a group is exercised, is practiced by individuals performing those functions. The idea was to administer us to full-fledged independence, administer us who? Cameroon under France and Cameroon under the UK. It was their responsibility to do this job. But from day one, let me just deal with the Ambazonia where we belong, which was part of the British administered mandated territory and trust territory. From day one, the territory was handed to Great Britain, who were, in my own words, criminals, conspirators to destroy the whole system. They were criminal, and I choose my words carefully, because they did everything vicious to destroy what was handed to them. I explain why we have Southern Cameroons, because there was one Cameroon. I try to explain why we now have Southern Cameroons and Northern Cameroons. It was a division of the British, but was not meant as provided under the 1946 agreement with the United Nations. It was not meant just for easy administration. No. What the British did was criminal in nature, because they did not intend from day one, when they took over the territories, they intended, as documents will show, to absorb British administered Cameroon into the larger territory of Nigeria. And they found it easier to do that by cutting it into two, with intent never to bring it back as one country. And so from 1919 up to 1961, they administered these two territories separately, again with the intent to absorb them into Nigeria. Though their intention failed in terms of Ambazonia, they succeeded with North Cameroon. How did they succeed? It would be good for us to know that by the time this thing came in 1961, the whole northern Cameroon, which was larger in size than present Ambazonia, had about 4 elementary schools. About 4 elementary schools there was no college. Nothing. As earlier said, they barely stepped foot in the territory. So that they barely kept that thing. They had 4 elementary schools and more than 500 or 400 Quranic schools to teach the Quran, which was intended to absorb into the north. Fast forward again, to show that they were criminally intended. Maybe we don't know that Northern Cameroon, that was part of UN administered English Cameroon, had two plebiscites. They had organized a plebiscite. The British had organized another plebiscite by themselves in Northern Cameroon in November of 1959. And what was the question they asked the people to answer in that plebiscite? They asked them to answer if they would like to join Nigeria immediately. That was 1959. Or they would like to postpone the adjournment for another date, for the adjourning for another date in the future. They were not asking them if they get independence. They would simply ask them whether they wanted to join Nigeria fully in 1959 or postpone their joining to sometimes in the future. That was an internal plebiscite organized by them, by the British over there. You see, but the heart is very easily other way again, because in the South, we're in the South. I've said they were running Quranic schools over there. We know how the Quran and the Islam goes. They are very hostile to Western religion. Again, I said that in the South, our education system was essentially run by missionaries. And so we already had so many schools. Our people had been properly educated. What secondary schools, what Sase, what Ballet, what all these schools. We even had a government college, GTTC, Kumba. So we're very educated. People like Dr. Ndele had gone to university, were doctors. But as of 1960, 61, the North had nothing. They had one small clinic, government. No secondary school, nothing. But fast forward, they organized this election, this plebiscite in 1959, asking the Northern Cameroon if they would like to join Nigeria immediately. That was 1959. Or postpone the adjourning. Okay. It did not work. They were reporting this thing back to the United Nations, to the Coordination Committee. They're supposed to be reporting. And then they were so dishonest. They did all these things. In that plebiscite, the Northerners, the Northern Cameroonians, voted no. We don't want to join Nigeria now. We're postponing it. Now, 2 years down the road, between 1959 and 1961, they came out again with this plebiscite of 11 February. And remember, maybe we don't know, on the 11th February, there were two plebiscites in Cameroon. One plebiscite was organized for Northern Cameroon. One plebiscite was organized for Southern Cameroon. The two plebiscites were asking the same question. They asked Northern Cameroon, would you like to get independence by joining Nigeria? Or you like to get independence by joining French-speaking Cameroon? The same question. They had asked the similar question almost 2 years before. They knew what the answer would be. And so how could they organize two plebiscites in a territory that they were given to be one entity? The plebiscites were held on the same day with the same question. And interestingly, the United Nations bought into all this. The plebiscite were not organized by Great Britain. No, they recommended it. The United Nations organized it. And what did they do? For the two plebiscites holding on the same day, in the same territory that are given as a whole to be administered, they appointed one plebiscite official. There was a plebiscite officer appointed by United Nations to oversee the two plebiscites in the same territory. They appointed Jalal Abdo, was an Iranian, as the plebiscite officer to oversee the two plebiscites. That's why when you find in Resolution 1608, part one of it, I think paragraph 1, is dealing with the plebiscites. They are reporting the plebiscites as it occurred in Northern Cameroon, the plebiscite as it occurred in Southern Cameroon, and saying that, well, it was good. The people voted this way. But what else can be conspiracy more than that?
Wow.
The United Nations entrusted a single territory to the UK. The very United Nations now organizing a plebiscite, two plebiscites in the same territory.
And one single officer to supervise.
Yes, to oversee it and to answer the same question. The question is, why two plebiscites? The British administrators that sensed that we in the South, through the Ambazonia, were already so well educated, were unlikely to take the choice that they wanted. And that's why before the plebiscite, what the Manfred Constitutional Conference, what the Frontier government, just sent representation to the UK and to the UN, saying, no, we don't want this thing.
Okay,
We
no.
want a third option. We already had a parliament in the South. There was nothing in the North. They were resistant. So the British sensed danger that if they brought this North and South in a single poll and asked them the same question and asked them to vote as a bloc, the South with their education was going to educate the North and they would jointly vote against the British interest.
And so it was a divide
That,
and rule
yes, so they divided these
system
two
that
territories, one for the
my
North
republic is
to answer the
practicing
same
till
question,
tomorrow.
the other one to answer the same question, overseen by one election officer, a certain Abdul Jalal, whom they named from Iran. So this is just a wonderful conspiracy. If it is not criminal, I don't know what else it is. It is criminal, which if were done by you and me, would be in jail. But we don't have the power to jail countries. We have the power only to criticize them. It is criminal because this thing was condoned by the United Nations. Had the United Nations said, look, we will authorize you to divide this territory for administrative purposes. Why are you dividing them even at the end of the day for independence? This thing will not have happened. But they bought into it. They appointed the officials to oversee a fraud. And so that is where we are. That is the background to the story. And again,
Wow.
fast forward, when this officer, the plebiscite officer arrived, before he got there, he went to London, to the Commonwealth office or the Foreign Office to get instructions. And when he arrived, when he arrived Cameroon, he met it all the place. He discovered something. He discovered something was going on. He discovered that as of 1961, when he arrived, early 1961, Funcha had been holding discussions with Ahijo. Just I said they could talk. They have been talking about the plebiscite, about joining. And Funcha had been signing documents. But he was not signing as the prime minister. He was always signing the documents as leader of the majority party in this House of Assembly. And so this man wrote a report and said, look, Funcha cannot be signing this thing like this. They are dealing with the government. So you should stop signing this nonsense with Ahijo, your would-be partner, as leader of the opposition. Now, if you have to take British Southern Cameroon to anywhere, you must be going there as a government, no longer as Funcha, leader of your majority party. He made this report official. And I guess, this is on my guess now, this probably is the reason why you find in Resolution 16085 insisting that the government of Ambazonia, of British Southern Cameroon, the government of the Republic of Cameroon, and the government of UK should be the ones to be engaged. They talk about government. I explained this earlier. So they wanted to circumvent, to stop this nonsense of Funcha going for parties in Yaoundé or Douala, wherever they were, and engaging the country as a country. So that's part of the reason why they put their government. And maybe, we don't know, United Nations resolutions don't just come in. Those things are debated for days, And every comma is vetted. Every full stop is vetted. That's why if you go there, you find that those resolutions, all of them, when they come out, they are in all the official languages of the United Nations. Chinese, French, Russian, they're all there. They carry the same information. So it's not the thing that they just go there and do it the way some of us think now. So this is the background to the conspiracy. This is the reason, perhaps, today we are finding it much more difficult to knock open the doors of the United Nations. And we're still trying. Again, we will find dissenting voices there. The US was being told this. The US representative at the time said, no, this thing was not going to work. And today, people who are even trying to lend us support is the US government, because they realized that thing was not going to work. They have these things in their files. The representative at the United Nations don't just speak. They speak for their government. Before they take the floor to say something, their government vets what they are saying. And so this is part of the reason why we are facing this difficulty. The United Nations is finding it difficult because they are so entangled. Again, UK is finding it much more difficult because they were supposed to develop the territory for independence. They developed nothing. I said in the whole Northern Cameroon, which was bigger in size and even in population than us, had only 4 elementary schools. So what the government they've been doing there from 1919 when they got there? Absolutely nothing. I'll conclude this part by saying that what the other thing they were trying to do was tax farming. They appointed chiefs, collected taxes, and took them to London or wherever they were. For example, we all know that our capital is Boya. Who of us know which was the capital of North Cameroon? Who was ever asked that question? Because they didn't even exist in the terms of the administration. The British just merged them up with Yola and all those communal things. So that's the background.
Thank you very much, Barrister. I think this is bringing it down to earth for people to see and to understand that when we are talking about crookery and talking about dishonesty, the white man is trying to attribute it to be the portion of the black man. But history is unveiling to us that there were such crooks and fraudsters in their government when they were colonizing Africa. And even those to whom some countries were given just to be the supervisors and guide them to independence, they still play these dirty games. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But we are living in a generation where we are asking Britain to correct their wrong. Though it looks difficult, but it's not impossible. We are also asking the UN to go back to the annals of history and find out what actually happened and put a full stop to it. I remember reading one of the greatest history books of the world. I discovered that there was a certain man who discovered a plot against a certain king that was to be assassinated. And he reported the situation. And the king was saved from that assassination. And at the end of the day, this man was not rewarded. So one of the evenings, while drinking in his palace, the books were read. And that particular man was mentioned. And the king asked, what has been done to this man? And they said, nothing. They cannot see any record of what has been done to him. The king said, no, 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 no. We must correct this. And so I want to let Britain know that we are all human beings and we are all fallible, and that we can do a correction, what they call in their grammatical language a corrigendum, of whatever they did, which today they are discovering that it was wrong. It could be they were not the real persons who are sitting there, but their forefathers who did it handed them over an heritage. And when they get this heritage, they inherit everything that was done. And so they inherited this misbehavior or misconstruction or whatever adjective we describe on the people of Amazonia, for them to correct it. Yes, there is that possibility of correcting it. So from what you are saying, Barrister, we are suffering all that we are suffering now as a result of Britain doing what they did. Can you brief us, if you can look a little bit detailedly and go wider? Why do you think they did this to us?
I will answer the question in a wider context. You see, what they were doing or what they did was not in isolation. It was almost part of the colonial policy of the administrators to get the best out of what they were given to administer. Let me sidetrack a bit, a few seconds, to what the French were doing to our Francophone neighbors. They signed the same agreement that opted to administer the territory for independence. That the same agreement is signed with like UK. But then they realized Cameroon under France is Central Africa. Besides that Cameroon under France, there were other surrounding countries, Chad, Central African Republic, Gabon, and all those places. Congo, Brazzaville. These people were not as viable as Cameroon under France. Cameroon under France had the resources, they had everything available. And so France knew that we cannot let them go until we hold them down to our Apron Springs. And so when independence were coming, they promised to give them independence, but they wanted to give them independence on their own terms. That's why you find this nonsense of Brazzaville agreement with General de Gaulle and all those contracts with the sign, which we are now criticizing. They knew that they were ripping these people off of whatever thing they had. And after having secured these agreements with their puppet, Ahidjo, whom they had put as president, because he was put there as president, they said, okay, you see, among the Central African countries, French-speaking Central African countries, Cameroon was the first to have independence. In quote, 1st January 1960, they get their independence. But what independence were they giving these people? This was the country being given independence without an election of a president. There was no election because they wanted Ahidjo to continue ahead. There was no constitution because they knew that they opened a constitution, the UPCs and other movements there would infiltrate and maybe they would destroy what they had planned in Brazzaville and other agreements. They knew that if there was election, maybe Ahidjo would not win. They had set up Ahidjo under his UC, Young Cameroonese, to overthrow Charles Asale and Bida and all the stuff that you know. So they fast-tracked their independence to 1st January. And thereafter, they would organize elections that Ahidjo would win. They would draw a constitution that would be to their test. No constitution was drawn before independence. No elections was handled before independence. That's why today you and me are crying here. Our Francophone brothers know these stories. They know that they had no independence. They have been singing it. The only problem is that their politicians don't sing the song because they know that if they sing a song that France deceived them, they buy their kitchen material from France. They spend all their holidays in France. They go to hospital in France. That might be their end politically and socially because they have nothing in Cameroon to show for. If we were sick in Cameroon, you didn't have an evacuation certificate, you die there. So the two administering powers, each was manipulating the people to get all the milk, to get the best out of what they were given to administer, to muscle them to the bone. So that is what went on. And that is why we are here. We are facing diplomatically, one of the countries that will face the terrible challenges, even putting a matter in the United Nations, is France. Because France happens to be one of the people with the veto power. France knows that if you open this Pandora box, I mean, like it's already happening without us, they're not going to survive. So that is where it is. I don't know what was the precise question. I've missed it a bit. Oh, it's a precise question, Pastor.
Yeah, I was saying that it means we are suffering this thing as a result of us refusing to dance to the tune of preaching. Because, as you said, the two Cameroons, the northern Cameroons and the southern Cameroons, Britain played the divide and rule policy. And since the northern part of were not educated enough, they decided now to join Nigeria before the independence of Nigeria. Because when Nigeria was getting their independence on the 1st of October 1960, the northern Cameroon was already with Nigeria. Am I right?
They were. In fact, as late as 1959, as you have told this, Nigeria was never independent. 1959 November, the British government was asking Northern Cameroon if they want to get independent by joining a yet to be independent country called Nigeria. So they're asking them whether they would choose to remain with Nigeria. In November 1959, when Nigeria was due to have independence, only a year after that, October 1960. So they had been part of Nigeria, not as not for administrative purposes, but for absorption, for integration
Yeah.
by the
Wow.
colonial masters.
Colonial masters, yeah. Now, if I can get you very well, barrister, we were was let me see. All the countries in Africa that were given to colonial masters, was it given by the UN as trust territories, or some of them were directly colonized by these European countries?
No, the countries in Africa, as we speak today, only very few of them, those who were given as trust territories or were those German colonies, former German colonies, they were not even all trust territories. For
Okay.
example, Tanzania, which was Tanganyika, was a
Yeah.
German colony. But Great Britain, no, Nigeria was a British colony.
Yeah.
Central African Republic was a French colony. Gabon was a French
Okay.
colony. Those who were
Okay.
put in this situation were only countries that were German colonies. Cameroon, for
Okay.
example.
After
Southwest
they
Africa.
won the Germans
Yeah,
in the war.
yes.
Okay.
When Germany lost its territories, those
Mm-hmm.
countries, those were in Africa, they included Togo, which was divided into two, British Togoland and French Togoland. They included Cameroon, who was divided into two, UK administered Cameroon and the French. They included Namibia, today Namibia, Southwest Africa, maybe I think Eritrea. So there were not so many. The majority of countries in
Okay.
Africa were already colonies in their own right.
Colonials. Okay.
They included
Okay.
uh, Rwanda and Burundi, which were given to Belgium. But the
Mm-hmm.
bulk of African countries were independent, were colonies by their own right, administered
Okay.
by the Portuguese, by the Spanish
Mm-hmm.
people, by Great Britain, and so on and so on. The only country that came out of the war, First and Second World War, without taking colonies was Russia. They were away, but you don't find a Russian colony anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But Africa was partitioned. Those of us who happen to have belonged to the German protectorate, or whatever they call it, are the one who suffer
Okay.
this administration from the United Nations.
Now let's go over the oppression that we have had under La République through France, and we have been clamoring to ask ourselves to get our real independence, because it is only after this struggle that we are struggling that we come to now understand that even La République du Cameroon is not independent. But before, we were thinking, I mean, the majority of people were thinking that La République is really independent. But from now, as things are ruling out, we are seeing that they were under that yoke of accord de coopération, which actually makes them like a province in France. And that's why France is still ruling and controlling them. Now, and then when Britain, I don't know whether you have any figment of thought that they had connived and discussed with France to carry out the same maneuvers over the British colonies, because we now see that the method of France over La République suddenly became the same method that that Britain was trying to use over former northern Cameroons, which is now Nigeria, and now the present Ambazonia, which was the former British southern Cameroons. Do you think that they would have discussed something to that effect diplomatically or anyhow to make sure that we are in this position in which we are today?
I don't think they did that. It's good to understand how the French have maintained their rule over Cameroon and its former colonies. They have done it. It's a We have today in Cameroon something called the National Assembly of Parliamentarians. We have something called the Senate. But France, throughout most of its colonies, and Cameroon in particular, they made sure that there's nothing called National Assembly in practice. How did they do it? I told you that they got independence without a constitution. Their 1960 constitution put in a number of things that have been used even till today. In Cameroon today and yesterday, the legislator, the man who makes the law, is principally the president. How does he do it? Their constitution of 1960 and the ones of been today continue to say something. The presidential decrees and ordinances have the authority of law. So much of what they do in Yaoundé, they are done by presidential decree. You hear them quoting decree this, decree this, decree this. Those are their laws. Ordinance this, ordinance this. If, for example, one that you know very, very well, we have been having all this nonsense of land problem in Cameroon. What is the land law? The original land law in Cameroon is an ordinance of 1974. It's not a law from any parliament. And so they have used this. They used this in 1960 to put up the structures that they could manipulate. They put it a president legislator at the same time. He administered the territory. He legislates for the territory. Even today, in Cameroon, even laws that go through their parliament, what they call laws that go through their parliament, 99% of them will always end somewhere saying that a presidential decree would show how to apply this. This presidential decree is one man thing. There's no law anywhere showing how a presidential decree emanates. And even in their decree in their present dispensation, what do they say? They say that a presidential decree has the force of law. And then, of course, their own legislation, call it the Senate or the National Assembly, will not debate on any law which does not come from the presidency. So they are speaking for the president. So those are the instruments that are put in place to keep the country under their grip. The French do not use the same method. See, for example, we have been blaming Paul Biya, Foncha and the rest for keeping quiet when they were being muzzled. No, these people had no other instrument. After the 1961 so-called unification in October, 6 months or 4 months after that, they passed an ordinance. They passed an ordinance which was called Ordinance to Repress Rebellion and so on. So you could not assemble the 1962 ordinance. If you assemble more than one of you, they will arrest you. That is why I think we've been told that even in 1972, when they came in with this nonsense of referendum, Foncha and the English people were in Yaoundé, went to late Fondong's house. They stood there and said, but what are we going to do? They were surrounded. They used the ordinance and said, these people are sending me to rebel. And dispersed them, and they had to go back home. And so this ordinance, which passed through no parliament at all, became the law of repression. It has been used as the law of repression till today. In 2014, 2012, I think. But in fact, in 1990, they purported to abolish the 1962 ordinance on repression. Both political parties have from the discovery. These both political parties are using the platform of political parties to criticize them. They came back with the same law in 1914, call it the law on repression of terrorism. That's the law under which the arrests come to. They reproduce it. You cannot hold a meeting anywhere in Cameroon without the presidential bodyguards coming to take it away. So the French have used a different method, unlike the British. The British.
So, Barrister, let me ask you. Now, in this particular situation that is going on now with us in Ambazonia, and especially La Republique de Cameroon, I want to find out from you, is that how France is ruled? By these decrees and all the nonsense that is going on in La Republique de Cameroon? Well, what we know is, like recently, almost the whole cabinet of Boris Johnson resigned, and he had no choice but to get out. Now, I want to find out how is France governed? Is it the government of the people, by the people, for the people, or is the dictatorship that they are sending and radicalizing our African leaders to carry out on their people?
I don't know. You know, the French had a king, King Louis, King Louis, and all
Yeah,
something. But they overthrew this.
Louis the
But if you
16th.
look at the history of France backwards, in the last 100 years or more, the people who are the own rulers, who are revered in history, are military rulers. Napoleon Bonaparte,
Yeah,
General de Gaulle, these are military guys.
yeah.
So they are not ruled in they are not, there's nothing similar between France and UK in terms of politics. The British is a parliamentary rule. The ministers in government represent their party and they represent their constituency. You don't bring somebody who is not in parliament to be a minister. And so if you are doing something which the constituency does not like, you resign. And if you lose that majority, you lose it. You lose it. That does not happen in France. It's a dictatorship of the hierarchy. That same thing tried to apply to us. In the West Cameroon House of Assembly, the National House of Assembly in West Cameroon, they had only 13, they had 26 members. There was 26 parliamentarians. And it was parliamentary. I think in 1959-60 elections, Frontier Party and its coalition had 14 MPs. The rest went to the opposition. And as they went down there, the debates were going on. I remember, if I'm not forgetting the name, there was a certain Frambo from Manfay who had represented, who had been voted in. He crossed the carpet from Frontier's government to the opposition. And then Frontier lost his majority in parliament. And then you had this song, 13. The opposition was not 13, the government was 13. And so that brought some crisis at the time because Frontier was supposed to resign, having lost his majority. So that's what was happening then. It's not the same thing in France. I don't live in France, but I'm not sure that they have the same rules now. If the British had known, it had been possible for them, they would have done something differently. But by their own culture, they couldn't do it differently. That's why even after that, see the British, with their aim of controlling the overseas territories, they have lost almost everything. The last count I discovered is that even in Nigeria, where the British were trying to protect so much for their own economic reasons, the greatest investors in Nigeria are French. The share of investment of France in Nigeria is more than that of Great Britain. So I don't think that they did it generally. If they did it that way, the French have been able to use the iron, the hammer to maintain that rule, unlike the British.
Wow. Thank you very much, Barrister. Now, this is going up and up and up to give birth to our struggle. Now, our time is almost running out, and I'm always taking you back to refresh our minds and to remind us, because when you know your roots, you can know how to make them to go deeper. Now, at this juncture where we are now, having been forced to defend ourselves, do you think that the system and the method we have taken to defend ourselves after a very long history of 6 decades, as we are talking about now, do you think that all other means have been exploited to make sure that we become a people of whom God created us to be, and now they resulted to violence and we have come out to defend ourselves? Is that the right way and the right thing to have done in this century?
Well, short and simple, I think we're on the right path. We're winning the battle, I can assure you. Not because we're stronger than La Republic. They have the military force. They have everything. They have the money. But we are winning the battle. They are fighting the war for us. Because every pronouncement that they make, every tactical thing that they do, has turned out to be in our favor. For example, how many of us knew what was going on in Libya? Who knew Libya? Libya is such a small place. But the colonial governor sold to the world, not just to Cameroon, but to the whole world, that they had lost the battle in Libya. Could we have had that message? Yes, maybe on ABC. But many people watch ABC compared to CRTV. They have sold the message. See, there's nothing so difficult. Liberation struggles are always difficult. I don't know how many of us can remember. If you go, there's a country called Bangladesh. They fought like us, the present Bangladesh today. I remember watching that thing in the late 90s or something. The first president was in jail, Sheikh Rahman. He came out of jail to become the president. He was in tattered dresses, but he became the president, and today we have Bangladesh, who are winning more than many other countries have fought and won. The truth is out there. We're lucky most of these things are documented. The only reason why France and Great Britain are resisting all this is that they know that when these things, if these things are out there, they'll be so ashamed of what they did. But the truth is never hidden from the light. So we're doing the right thing. Again, I ask the question, should it be simple? No, it has not been simple even up to today because we've lost so many people. We do not need to have died the way we have died for this thing. But we have died. If you and me are talking here, it's just because we're lucky. So it is not because we survived. No, we're just lucky to be alive. A good number of our brothers, sisters, and mothers, fathers, and so on have died, have been killed, either in the battlefront or through undercut means. The Jews. Joe was not fighting a war, they killed him, and many others. So we are doing the right thing. Let us keep on. The world has become so civilized today that they cannot hide the truth, especially written truth, documentary proof. We're on the right track. Again, we're talking on the air. Let Yaoundé, let Great Britain, let France challenge us with the contrary facts. Let Britain challenge us that they didn't divide this thing for a selfish reason. Let France challenge us that they gave Cameroon independence the right way, without a constitution, without an election. Let them challenge us. I wasn't there. I'm reading documents.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Ladies and gentlemen, I am glad you are sitting here and you are listening to our Amba history. The position where we are now, we have been pushed to the wall and there is no way backwards, and we need to move forward. That is why we have stood up and said our land belongs to us. For the past 6 years, counting, La Republique has unleashed their devilish and satanic arsenals on us. But we have stood to say that the land belongs to us. The blood of our slain is crying on the earth that they were not supposed to die at this time. But a wicked regime that has no right on our land, neither was it given to them by the colonial masters, nor did it come from God. They now came in by tricks, and over the years we discovered that they have been trying to use us and useless us in our land, and we stood to say no more. But today they came with their guns, and our God is fighting for us. If you are listening very attentively, Barrister made an assertion here, which I want to say it is the truth, that we are winning because it is our land. So if you are an Ambazonian and you are sincere, please join your LGA. Go back to your county. Stand and fight with your brothers and sisters. Defend your homeland. And tomorrow, we shall all be there, as free as people who are in America. I've seen an exodus from Amazonia, passing through all difficult ways to make sure that they get to a free land called America. That is because they are not free in their land. And we are making an appeal to the international community, and especially to the consciences of the individuals in the UN and those who are in the government of Britain. Please correct the wrong you have done. God's eyes are watching on you, and He has stepped in to help Amazonia. So we want to say, all the restoration fighters, take care. Be very watchful. You are guerrilla fighters. You don't need to join in any amusement until La Republique put their guns down and our land becomes peace. As long as we are not peaceful in our land, La Republique will not have peace in their own land. So please, watch out for the tricks that we have just enumerated to you that they are still doing, and let's fight, defend our land, and make sure our children's children do not come to fight this battle again. We are fighting it once and for all. Barrister, thank you very much for coming. You can go ahead and give us your closing remarks, and we'll call it quit for today.
Thank you. My closing remarks once more, ladies and gentlemen, country people, no one are here. We don't reach for a point where we know if we go back. We are winning, but no victory is simple. Even for common football matches we play, sometimes one win and someone don't broke foot. Someone don't found out broke in Jamba. With the win, we have only one goal to get back home. Those who want to be president, those who want to be anything, be a president, whatever you want to be, but fight the war. Fight the enemy. When we get back home, we shall know who is the real president. If you belong to a place, some village, capture your village first. Let your village be part of Amazonia, not part of La Republique du Cameroon. So, to all those people aspiring for power, fight the enemy first. We'll get to Boya. We'll get the legitimate power. Thank you very much. Listen to this history. Let the history be a lesson to us. You can only divide people for a while, but they must be united for a common cause. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister, for coming in to the ABC Amba TV, the station of the interim government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia. We want to applaud you and thank you so much for coming in to educate the people of Amazonia, so they will not fight as people who are fighting the air. They should have a target, and the target is getting to Boya, their capital. And for those of you who are just tuning in, we want to let you know that this has been a program on our history that comes to you every weekday, Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Amba time, so that people can know why they are fighting. And to those who are strangers, Amazonia, historically speaking, was a trust territory for the British. And in the 60s, when the Europeans were handing back power to the Africans whom they had colonized for a number of years, Amazonia, the former British Southern Cameroons, was not properly decolonized. And that is why La Republique of Cameroon has been exerting and trying to steal over our land and our people. But we are resisting. Yeah, get in touch with us. The phone number is there on the board, and we'll be able to give you answers to your questions. Meanwhile, Barrister is on standby, and as the days go ahead, he will come in and be bringing to us the history, which is, the current event that is making history, to land us where we are. And so thank you very much once again. and have a wonderful day. Yeah.